This launched the U.S. and Iran into a race to find him.
To rescue an aviator buried deep behind enemy lines.
Fortunately, the officer had a rescue beacon that could signal his location to the U.S. The problem was that he not only had to step out of his hiding spot to transmit the signal, Iran could potentially intercept it and get to him first, so he could only use the beacon sparingly. With enemy forces getting closer every hour, how is the U.S. going to pinpoint his location inside hundreds of square kilometers of the desert?
Comparable to hunting for a single grain of sand in the middle of a desert.
A blind sweep of the entire area could take days or even weeks. But surprisingly, just 40 hours after the crash, the U.S. announced the officer was rescued.
Still invisible to the enemy, but not to the CIA.
So how did they do it? Well, to overcome the magnetic article, the CIA deployed a futuristic device to rescue him. Reportedly, they were able to detect the magnetic field produced by his heartbeat from kilometers away. Such a device would have to overcome the magnetic signatures from other soldiers, vehicles, and animals in the region, let alone Earth's magnetic field. It's like listening to a murmur in the crowd. So the technology is appropriately called ghost murmur. Immediately, this kicked off ghost murmur. This is science fiction. You hear about what the CIA thinks that they have? Ghost murmur. All of this sounds super true, and there seems to be no other sources beyond this New York Post article. So we dug deep to find out whether this supposed technology really exists and what it's based on.
I'm very glad you believe things I read in the New York Post.
Many of these researchers in the anti-diamond area haven't signed NDA.
That's wrong technology.
No, these ghost murmur back to the perspective. There are two lines in this report article that hint at what this device is doing. First, normally this signal is so weak that it would be measured in a hospital setting with the sensors pressed nearly against the chest. But that brings a field known as quantum magnetometry, specifically sensors built around microscopic defects in synthetic diamonds, has apparently made it possible to detect these signals at dramatically greater distances. We're going to break this down bit by bit. First, does the heart actually create detectable magnetic fields? Second, what are these synthetic diamonds that give the potential to detect them? And third, is it all possible at this distance? Let's start with the heart. Now, if you type heart magnetic field into the images, you will get a bunch of questionable looking graphs. What do you mean this? Well, whenever current flows through a receptor, it generates a magnetic field. And since our body is run on electrical impulses from neurons, our tissues and organs generate faint magnetic signals. But because the heart muscles fire in a coordinated way, the magnetic field is able to be the strongest in the body. It's around 50 to 100 kilovolts, 10 to 100 times more than the next rock, by the brain. But even then, this is still a million times weaker than Earth's signal. So it's no surprise that we only detected the magnetic field of the heart in 1963. It has to be done in a remote field, away from the magnetic noise produced by lab equipment, elevators, and cars, and the setup has to be incredibly still. Even the slightest vibration of the detector will disrupt the sensor. Not something that can work on a helicopter or military purpose. But pretty soon, magnetometers got better. By the 1970s, we got superconducting quantum interference devices, or QUICs. These magnetometers were incredibly sensitive. The U.S. military put straps between planes and helicopters, and they tried to detect large magnetic signatures like submarines and ghosts. But the project never really picked up. Nonetheless, schools also made it easier and hard to convince, but with a key caveat. They typically need to be operated in a very small range, very tightly controlled conditions, often inside a shielded room that can't enable large secondary range of background fields electromagnetic interference. These magnetometers offer solutions, but they also have their own drawbacks. There were always issues with either shielding or sensitivity or dynamic range that made them impractical for detecting hearts without receiving. Until the 1990s, when physicists started looking into diamonds and might have been essentially getting it around the drawback. These quantum magnetometers work at room temperature operation, and that's what's really exciting about it. There's also a solid state sensor, which, can be very applicable for some applications made into like a more robust power sensor. These underdiamond metrics in the report article, there was a common question. Now, overall coverage on the report is actually very good. A lot of us thinking about the other way to report is actually real. And the better way to outlet the story might not like it. For example, you saw an S7 first, might be impressed with the technology, but this one is a bit more skeptical. And the last one might not even make you care about the technology. So, three headlines is pretty consistent with the story. And that's why they talk to gravity companies. They're a website and an app designed to make it easier and more big. Round up stories with thousands of outlets all around the world give a visual breakdown of the story. Ground, wind, and even order, all backed by ratings from three independent media monitors. In the case of the short story, it's been reported on like 65 sources, but the coverage is pretty locked up, so if you only get news from selected outlets, there's a chance you see the story, but if you only get it from the web, there's a chance you have it. And below that, you can also do the sexuality rating and the ownership of the story. We also have this blind spot feature, which highlights stories like the Ghost River ones that were underreported on by either side of the perspective. Staying up to date and well-informed with accurate information has always become a full-time job, and that's where grounding is so valuable. It is easy, accessible, and accessible. You can see all of the information in this moment, not hours. So if you like us and you're happy to share about getting this thing, go to ground.me/people and it's virtually, and our link will give you 20% off for that question. I want to make ground this response to this part of the video, and now let's figure out how those factors actually detect the energy. Well, for something to function as a magnetometer, it needs to respond to magnetic fields from right up into the center. Now, if you are dilated or your lattice carbon atom, it doesn't react to magnetic fields immediately. But the changes start atoms connected to the lattice. You can replace one of the carbon atoms in the lattice with, say, a nitrogen. If you remove one of the carbons connected with it, well, that creates a vacancy. This effect is called nitrogen vacancy, or NV. And NV letters become particularly useful when they travel on pairs of electrons. That's because electrons have this intrinsic property called spin. Essentially, a quad analysis that the spin is kind of like a tiny bar magnet. Electrons that go forward magnetic field, and these points either up or down. So, when an electron is exposed to an external magnetic field, this magnetic signature will either align itself with the field or against it. Also known as particles that have no net spin do not respond to an external magnetic field. Now, to track electrons, you can arrange their spins in the following way. Taking both points up, if you take the spin magnetic quantum number of 1, taking both points down for a quantum number of -1, or if it points in opposite direction, a quantum number of 0. Well, note this is magnetic quantum number with NN, and it essentially acts as a bar magnet for the full NV set. And just like individual electrons, this bar magnet is also sensitive to external magnetic field. So now that we've created a diamond that responds to magnetic field, the challenge is, how do we measure this response to the magnetic particles? So I reached out to experts to try and figure this out. Basically, out of the 20 or so emails that I sent, I only got a few responses, but then I got an impromptu call from one of the experts who said that many of these researchers in the diamond area having studied NDA really is a lot more interesting, but with how considered everyone is the diamond is publicly available in the week. And I think the key idea is to figure out how diamonds respond to magnetic fields have to be light. When you shine light at an atom, atoms can either absorb the light or ignore it. An absorbed photon of light will excite an electron within the atom to a higher energy level. You can think of these energy levels as three platforms that electrons can jump to, just like in the video. All atoms of the same element resemble carbon with the same energy level. But when you bring them together on each side of diamond lattice, their energy levels shift. They come together to form a series of closely spaced energy levels diamonds are occupied versus as commodity called the value. In a pure diamond, it's fitted with around 5.5 electrons, which means that only ultraviolet photons have enough energy to excite the electrons. All lower energy items, visible items, will be ignored by the diamond in the pattern. This is why a perfect pure diamond is transparent, it doesn't absorb visible light. But if you start adding defects, they disrupt that organized pattern. The defects unlock different energy levels, secret platforms in this bandgap for nearby electrons to jump to. A boron defect, for example, gives you a low energy level at only 0.37 electron volts. This is a platform that electrons can jump to by absorbing infrared or red light. And with enough boron defects, a significant amount of red light gets absorbed. The rest of the visible spectrum ultimately makes it through, so without the stress, the diamond will be closed. Similarly, a nicely baked defect unlocks other visible platforms. And these become like detect how the image center responds to the magnetic field. At first glance, it looks like the nicely baked generates a few unique levels, and these are exclusive to the few unpaired electrons trapped in the needle. But if you look closer at, for example, the lowest level, notice that it actually contains three closely spaced but separate energy levels. The second and third levels are actually at the same height, but will drop in separately. And the fact that there are three is a coincidence. Remember, the empty center contains up one of three MS levels. 0, -1, or 1. Depends on how the individual electrons inside are arranged. You should think of the two things as bar magnets. The most relaxed, lowest energy way for them to stick is this, one pushing up and the other down. This is analogous to the MS theory, which is why they have the lowest energy. Forcing both magnets to point down together or up together, like the MS equals 1 or -1 state, requires more energy than closing the states are in equal, slightly higher sublevel. These differences are tiny. Jumping from the 0 to the +-1 level requires only a small amount of energy. A microwave photon of 10^4 centimeters. Now, these secret energy platforms with energy centers were mapped out by design. But for a long time, no one thought this was just a kind of common. It was a decade before the light bulb went on for a bunch of us to think about the sensors, being the mindset switch, seeing differently, and when you do, you realize, oh my goodness, this is useful. So let's apply a magnetic field to the diamond and see what happens. If we slowly turn up the field, you'll see that the +1 and -1 levels are starting to shift. Understand why we come to the field as the downwind. That means the compass needle will align itself with the magnetic field and curve. And this is the lowest energy relaxed state that the needle can be in. And the stallion is able to consist of -1, which is why these energy levels drop. But in MS1, the system is split. This would be like taking a drill magnet and applying it through the compass needle, flipping it 180 degrees. And then if I'm careful in retracting this magnet, I can actually get the needle to stay in this place. And this is the highest energy this needle may have, sitting in this unstable position. Now if I tap it, it will actually go back. It's possible that the higher energy state, so the MS1 level slightly rises. And if MS0 doesn't react to the field, which is why this level hasn't changed. Now, turning up the magnetic field though, notice that the levels get further and further apart. This phenomenon is called zero split. It is described by the simple formula to be a direct link between the energy split and the magnetic field. So, in the presence of a periodic magnetic field like that generated by the heart, with this situation of the body. These energy levels are light different microwave wavelengths, which change depending on the strength of the field. So, what you can actually measure is which microwave rate the diamond is absorbing. When there's no magnetic field, the levels are consistent. A single absorption line at the wavelength of 10^4 centimeters. But when there's an external magnetic field, they produce two separate absorption lines. Now, we've simplified it a bit, but by measuring how big the these lines are, you get a real picture. This is how an anti-diamond magnetometer works. Was the diamond magnetometer ever used inside the heart? magnitude, but the cost is the point. Can't predict whether the day has the effect, which is limited to estimate how many.
Oh.
Well, the direction of the magnetic field falls out with the cube of the distance. So if the magnetic field at the heart, when measured at the chest, is 50 or 5 times 10 to the negative 11 to the front, well then just 1 centimeter away, this falls off by a factor of 1 billion, 5 times 10 to the negative 20 times. And in 50 to 100 kilometers, this can drop to as little as 10 to the negative 30 tenths.
The most sensitive measurement every day at the frequency of the heartbeat forecast is at the end of the minus 15 Tesla level, and that's in the shielded room. So you need a system that is 15 orders of magnitude more sensitive than the superconductor computers and 18 orders of magnitude more sensitive than diamond indium sensors.
Orders of magnitude. Some kind of one.
It's not like the field of Iran or devoid of animal life. They also have particles. Possibly larger large.
There are also the magnetic field of the drone or the helicopter, the device might be mounted on. And finally, there's the fact that the magnetic field of 10 to the negative 30 Tesla is weaker than a magnetic field of an electron will give you a meter away.
They're close. On the day before we saw this article, we also saw an article about how they had a technology where the element was sent out of Eastern, and that was one way that they were able to detect them. And these are, we know about them already. We also know that they're involved in other intelligence methods. But this is really interesting.
And then that brings me to the point of like, why would they make this up? The approach is ultimately a lot of stuff.
I'm not a real fan of credibility of the press. Reality, seeing what the press reports.
How about deception stories like false narratives published by not only the J, but other agencies? Is this often the case?
Let's start with the idea of fooling your enemy when you have something from vulnerability to protect goes back south.
During World War II, German bombers attacked Britain at night. Retaliation British fly up, intercept them, somehow kept fighting bombers in the north. Now, UK officials told the press that the pilots were able to do this because they ate a lot of terrorists, moving their vision at night. But some experts believe that this is actually a cover story to distract the Germans back to the British and install radar on their planes. Is that where the idea that terrorists is nighttime? I think so. I think that's the original joke. That is strange. No. Okay, there's one thing that's important. If this is like this thing, then why is everyone being so confident? There must be something. Well, epicenter of the diamond are also responsible. But the most interesting, probably comprehensive way to do this is as navigation device. The Earth's magnetic field creates a unique pattern all across the globe. That is based on the long and goal of with the rise of GPS and data over the last couple of years, that's incredibly powerful. So, any magnetometer you use in and they do have potential military applications. It's just that like 100 kilometers away, it's probably I want to give a shout out to a great scientist American article on this one by David Jar. That's what I think technology. Great thing.
This drug was a miracle. By 1998, 75,000 patients across the country were taking up to 20 of them every day. It's called ritonavir, and it turned a certain death into a condition. This particular pill is on its way to quality control, to a dissolution test. Here, analysts monitor each batch of capsules, checking that they do dissolve in around 30 minutes, which is quickly enough to be absorbed properly. It's a rigorous precaution for a drug that, for 2 years and 240 consecutive lots, has never failed. 2 years, this drug was a miracle. It was introduced in 1996 to treat HIV, and by 1998, 75,000 patients, 20 of them every day. It's called ritonavir, and it turned a certain death into a manageable condition. This particular pill is on its way to quality control, to a dissolution test. Here, analysts monitor each batch of capsules, checking that they do dissolve in around 30 minutes, which is quickly enough to be absorbed properly. It's a rigorous precaution for a drug that, for 2 years and 240 consecutive lots, has never failed. But now, an analyst sees something unusual. This capsule hasn't dissolved properly. So they destroyed the entire batch. He was issued a warning in 2018. At the nearby research and development lab.
Oh.